You clock out at 11 at night in Tokyo and the last train left 9 minutes ago. You have a full-time job, a suit, a business card, a desk with your name on it, but you don't have anywhere to go home to tonight. Like roughly 4,000 other people in this city alone, you're about to pay by the hour to sleep in a booth the size of a bathtub, surrounded by other people's comic books. And the strangest part isn't the booth, it's the math that keeps bringing you back to it. The place you're walking into is called a Manga Kissa, a manga cafe, though almost nobody in it is there for the manga anymore. From the street it looks like any other building sign, orange letters stacked above a stairwell, easy to miss if you're not looking for it. Inside, the air smells like instant coffee, hot dust from 100 computer fans, and the particular mustiness of 10,000 paperbacks that have never seen daylight. A bell chimes. A clerk barely looks up.
You've done this enough times that you don't need to ask where the lockers are. Check-in takes 90 seconds. Show an ID, pick a plan, pay for a block of hours instead of a room for the night, because that's how these places have always priced themselves. 6 hours, 9 hours, 12 if you want to sleep past sunrise and still make it to the office by 9. You choose the flat mat booth over the reclining chair because you learned that lesson the hard way once, waking up at 3 a.m. with your neck locked at an angle no chiropractor wants to hear about. The booth itself is barely wider than your shoulders, a computer monitor, a keyboard shoved to one side, a padded mat on the floor, thin as a yoga mat, that somehow still beats sleeping upright. The walls don't reach the ceiling, so you hear everything. A neighbour's keyboard clicking, a phone on silent still buzzing against a desk, someone's stomach growling through drywall that was never built for privacy, only the appearance of it. You pull a single blanket out of a plastic bag. It doesn't cover your shoulders and your feet at the same time, so you pick one and let the other go cold. The air conditioning here isn't really controlled, just adjusted, and depending on the night, you'll get anywhere from a stuffy 26 degrees to a shiver-inducing 18. You lie down anyway, because tomorrow starts in 6 hours and your body stopped negotiating about where it's willing to sleep a long time ago. This is where the survey usually stops, at the booth, as if that's the whole story. It isn't close. Before you sleep, you eat. Every manga cafe runs a self-serve drink bar, unlimited soda and iced tea, and if you're lucky, weak drip coffee that tastes like it apologized for existing. Some chains throw in soft-serve ice cream, a strange little luxury tucked between the printer and the vending machine. Instant ramen runs a few hundred yen, microwaved at a shared counter where 3 or 4 strangers stand in a loose, silent line at midnight, all of them in some version of the same wrinkled shirt. Nobody talks much. Everybody already knows the story, more or less, because it's their story too. The shower is where the real bottleneck happens, and it's the detail almost no one outside Japan expects. A single shower room, maybe 2, serving an entire floor of booths. You sign your name on a whiteboard at the counter or grab a numbered ticket from a touchscreen and you wait. 15 minutes is standard, 20 if you're at a nicer chain. The soap, shampoo and towel are usually free, tucked into a plastic caddy that 100 other bodies have carried before yours. And here's the part that actually costs you. Everyone knows the same thing you know, which is that the last train crowd checks in around midnight and the commuter crowd starts showering around 5. So if you want a shower without a line, you're setting an alarm for 4:30, showering half asleep under fluorescent light and getting dressed again in a stall barely bigger than the booth you just crawled out of. You've met men who make a whole ritual out of it. Suit pressed and hung the night before on the one hook the booth provides, shoes lined up by the door, black leather, polished the way you'd polish them if a shoe was the only object in your life still fully under your control. There's a kind of dignity in it that's easy to miss if you're only looking at the size of the room.
Your whole life fits into one coin locker and a duffel bag now, and you've gotten strangely efficient about it. A few chains run a coin laundry down the hall, a few hundred yen a load, so once or twice a week you sit in the booth in a borrowed set of gym clothes waiting for a dryer buzzer, while your only other shirt spins under fluorescent light with strangers' socks. Your phone charger lives permanently plugged in behind the monitor. Your toothbrush lives in a plastic bag in the locker. It isn't the discomfort that gets to you most on nights like that, it's the quiet. Not silence, the building never goes fully silent, but the particular loneliness of falling asleep to the sound of a stranger's keyboard instead of anyone who actually knows your name. One of the men who lived this exact routine for 4 months has a name, and a story worth slowing down for. Tadayuki Sakai spent 20 years as a full-time employee at a credit card company. Not a temp, not a contract worker, an actual salaryman with the job security the whole system is supposedly built around. By his own account, he was putting in somewhere between 120 and 200 hours of overtime a month, sleeping in short bursts at his desk because there wasn't time to go home, even when he had a home to go to. When the stress turned into depression and he took a month off to recover, his co-workers treated him like he'd broken some unspoken rule. He came back to a workplace that had quietly decided he was weak. Not long after, he handed in his resignation. He described the moment as the best he'd felt in years. But comfort has a ceiling here, and the weekends test it. Book late on a Friday near a major station, and you might not get a mat at all. Locals trade stories about arriving off a late train, only to hear the front desk say every flat booth in the building is gone, every reclining chair too, and the next open one is a taxi ride away in a completely different part of the city. On those nights, the system's whole appeal, the idea that you can always walk in and always find a place to lie down, quietly stops being true. You stand at the counter, doing math you didn't want to be doing at midnight. Then there's the risk nobody puts on the pamphlet. In 2008, a fire tore through a video and internet booth building in Osaka and killed 16 people, most of them exactly the kind of long-term overnight residents this whole system depends on. The buildings weren't designed as housing. Narrow booths, shared corridors, walls that don't reach the ceiling, for airflow instead of escape routes. It forced a wave of new fire safety rules across the industry, sprinklers and clearer exits added, chain by chain. The upgrades helped. They didn't change the basic fact that you're sleeping in a converted office space stacked with paper, not a building anyone ever certified for people to live in. And here's the part that keeps people from asking for help even when the booth stops feeling safe. Japan's public assistance system, Seikatsu Hogo, usually requires proving you can't get financial support from family before you qualify, which means a caseworker contacting relatives you may not have spoken to in years. For a culture where poverty carries real shame, that single requirement is often enough to keep someone paying nightly for a booth instead of walking into a welfare office and saying the word homeless out loud. So people don't. They keep showing up at the same counter week after week, quietly renewing a life that was only ever supposed to be temporary. Sakai understood that trade better than most. He moved into a net cafe after quitting, working temp jobs and phone shifts, keeping his booth as tidy as an actual apartment. One grey suit, 2 shirts, a tie, a single pair of shoes, arranged like a man who refuses to let his address define what kind of person he is. "I never want to become a salaryman again," he said. It wasn't collapse he was describing, it was relief, with nowhere better to put it. Here's where the severity actually climbs past the booth, past the shower line, into the number that explains why any of this exists at all. Renting a real apartment in a city like Tokyo doesn't just mean first month's rent. It means key money, a deposit, sometimes a guarantor fee, sometimes 2 or 3 months of cash up front before a landlord will even hand you a set of keys. For someone working an irregular day-to-day job, paid weekly or paid in cash, that lump sum might as well be a locked door. A single night in a booth runs under 2,000 yen. Multiply that by 30 nights and you're paying more across a month than an apartment lease would cost. But the apartment was never actually on the table. The upfront cash was the wall, not the rent. That's the trap. And it isn't a figure of speech, it's arithmetic. Pay less per night, pay more per month, and never once have enough saved in one place at one moment to jump from the nightly rate into anything permanent. Roughly half the people the Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare has surveyed in these cafes report having no job at all. The other half work, some of them full-time, and simply can't clear the upfront walls standing between a booth and a lease. It's not that they need a home less, it's that the door to one requires a kind of savings this system is built to prevent. There's a quieter cost too, one that doesn't show up on any receipt. No fixed address makes it hard to receive mail, open certain accounts, or list a home on a job application without inviting a question nobody wants asked. Some residents list the cafe's address itself on their resumes, and staff by now know exactly why. Japan's official homeless count sits at a few thousand people nationwide, and it counts almost nobody who isn't sleeping outdoors, in a park or a station entrance. Everyone inside a booth with a locked door and a shower schedule is, by that count, not homeless at all. Officially, they're just customers. By morning, the floor changes shape without anyone announcing it. The overnight sleepers become the shower line, becomes the breakfast rush at the drink bar, becomes a stream of suits and blazers heading for the stairwell, checking out one by one, folding blankets nobody will ever quite wash enough. You step outside into daylight that feels too bright after 6 hours under a booth's dim overhead light. Your shirt is pressed, your shoes are polished. Nobody on the train platform beside you would guess where you slept, and that, more than anything else in this whole routine, is the point of the entire system. It was built to be invisible from the outside. It works. You'll probably do it again tomorrow. Not because the booth is comfortable, but because the number never quite adds up any other way. And somewhere between the shower line and the polished shoes, you stopped calling it temporary. So here's the real question underneath all of it. If a full-time job, a suit, and 20 years of loyalty to a company can still end with someone sleeping in a booth the size of a bathtub, what exactly is that system protecting? Sakai says he's happier now than he ever was behind a desk. Maybe that's the most honest answer anyone in this story has given. If you want to see how the rest of a city holds itself together on far less than you'd expect, there's another story waiting right after this one.